All right, let's get into the not so goods.
Pooped in his big boy pants.
All right, the big guy here is Phillip Rivers. We couldn't talk enough about the Kansas City defense last week, and they came out and just decimated San Diego. San Diego's feeling the impact of a couple things. One, there was a bit of a rift between Rivers and Gates in this game, and then Gates didn't perform at all. But you're missing Keenan Allen. You're missing Malcolm Floyd. You have no running game in Melvin Gordon. And
your offensive line is a disaster.
A disaster. And Kansas City is playing as good as any defense right now, and you mix that all together, and it didn't matter who was home or away. It was a massacre. So Rivers killed people this week.
Yeah, I think that was one that, for all the reasons you just described, that you could see. I mean, he was almost my sit of the week. We talked about him being a trap play this last week, so hopefully he wasn't in your lineup. The guy that I think hurt people, I mean, Phillip Rivers, I said last week was going to hurt people because I think they would still play him. But the guy that hurt people that maybe, weren't off of Phillip was Derek Carr. Derek Carr's just been so reliable, good matchups, bad matchups. I think we had him at around the 6th quarterback coming into the week, and he 13 for 169 and 0, but I mean 13 passes? Like what?
So now you have 2 consecutive weeks where the Lions defense has shut down Green Bay in Green Bay, gave up 16 points. Oakland, who was, I believe, in the top 7 in terms of scoring points against defenses, so they were like somebody you didn't want to start a defense against, and Detroit comes out and does it again.
Yeah, well, you fire your offensive coordinator and your defense becomes way better.
And they have 2 more home games coming up. They have Philly next week. Would you start them?
The Lions
The
defense?
Lions defense against
yes.
Philly.
Yeah, why not?
At home against Sanchez?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, running backs that really didn't perform, who stands out to you?
To me, it's Danny Woodhead.
Yeah,
the combination with Phillip Rivers, and honestly, to me, it wasn't Danny Woodhead's fault. To me, I have no idea what the game plan was for San Diego. I know what it was. It was they really, really want Melvin Gordon to perform. He hasn't done it for 10 weeks. Do you want to win the football game or not? Put Woodhead in and go with those dump-off passes. That's what really works for your
Is it possible
offense.
the answer was no?
I was going to say, but do you really want to win these games if you're San Diego?
Yes.
I mean, you're playing you have a legitimate chance of getting that number 1 pick if you're –
You have a legitimate chance of getting fired.
That's yeah.
So Mike McCoy wants to win. I don't understand. There has to be this point where you say, okay, enough is enough. Melvin Gordon, you're not getting it done. Danny Woodhead has been a terrific asset to our passing game, and they gave him, or he caught 1 ball, 1.
Yeah, we expected him to maybe be the one guy that could have success on the offense because of the pass rush. How do you defeat a great downfield pass rush? Screen passes. Just ask Gio Bernard last night.
You've got another guy to me. We talked about the stud muffin of Eddie Lacy. Well, of course that's going to come hand in hand with the pooped in your big boy pants for James Starks. Andy, I believe last week you kind of said Starks is not a guy that you want to play and roll with this week. After what we saw him do, he got all the opportunity in the world the week before and didn't perform well. And that was without Eddie Lacy being in. But there's a lot of people who had both, and they clearly were going to start Starks. So he definitely helped ruin some fantasy teams out there.
All right, wide receivers that didn't perform this week, there were several. Amari Cooper had a disastrous week.
Hopefully you listened to the Friday show. He was originally my start of the week. I shifted off when the news that Slay was going to come and cover him. And that's a big part of the Lions defense. Crabtree did all right. He definitely was the one that I think he had 6 for 60 or something like that. Definitely not phenomenal, but
what happens when Darius Slay covers Kyle Rudolph?
I like it. I think
That's
Santa comes.
Pretty funny. Yeah, nobody watches is what happens. All right, Jordan Matthews played all 71 snaps, every snap in the entire game, and came out with a beautiful line of 4 for 13.
That was a crazy one to me. I really thought Jordan Matthews would perform at least as a high-level 3, low-level wide receiver 2 with Sanchez.
We talked about him last week, and Jason's like, where do you play him? And I'm like, I'd flex him. I'd flex him, and
Then
I
you
don't. And
corrected
then I go,
yourself.
I don't want to play him at all. I just don't want to play Jordan Matthews. I see in my vision what everyone sees that could be, right? Like, he should be good. He's out there. Chip Kelly, blah, blah, blah. Now they've lost 1 million games. You know, I don't know what Chip Kelly's future is. It's not looking good.
Oh, he'll be fine.
It hasn't been.
Oh, I'm saying as employment, he'll be fine.
Let me ask you this. How many do either of you think Dallas can win that division?
Yes.
Yeah, so do
But
I.
that's because the division leader is the Giants at 5-5.
I know.
So the Eagles could win the division as well.
Yeah. So it's just unbelievable. Andre Johnson 1 for 13. I don't think that's really a pooped in your big boy pants because he hasn't had big boy pants in a year, but he had done well with Hasselbeck.
Yeah.
Jeremy Maclin had a pretty bad game. 3 for 29.
I'm going to lose my season-long bet with
That is
Maclin.
several poor games in a row, and at this point, I don't know how much you can trust starting Maclin.
You can't. You cannot. I have to admit that. All right, tight ends. We've got another apology for you.
Eric Ebron, you had the best matchup that they could give you, and you had a perfect laser beam from Matty Snapback directly into your hands in the end zone, and you dropped it. So I apologize for nothing because Eric Ebron is a bum, and he had a touchdown.
I'm going to say this. He had a touchdown.
The process was correct.
It's hard. It's hard because I don't think there's been a pick this season. This is week 10. There's not been a pick I've got more tweets about than Ebron for some reason. Like, people are really struggling with the tight end position, who to put out there. You had some guys on bye this week, right? Like Barnage was on bye, Heath Miller was on bye. The Giants tight end Ben Watson was on bye. So people were really struggling on a pick here, and Ebron, all the math behind it, right? Which sadly, it doesn't. You don't play the game on paper. The paper said Oakland would struggle. Ebron had a shot, but hey, Gooser, take our lumps. Unfortunate, very disappointing, part of a tough week. And with him, Antonio Gates had 1 catch for 6 yards.
That was really good.
Your sit of the week.
Yeah, he was. Jason Witten, 2 for 27.
Oh, no.
He was not my start of the week. Although in the beginning of the week when I was looking at guys, Delaney Walker, Jason Witten, Eric Ebron, Witten was up there. I was going, okay, maybe they build a rapport, but I just didn't like first game of Romo back. And then Jimmy Graham, 3 for 39, did very little.
Ha!
Is that at me?
No, that's
Just at Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham.
All right. So
you know what? One of the nice things for Eric Ebron owners, which that just stinks. That's
former. They're called former Eric Ebron owners.
Eric Ebron owners.
If you can cut guys on Monday,
it pains us when we get something wrong like that. On the bright side, this week for the tight end position.
Oh my gosh,
Eric Ebron.
I thought you were going to talk Eric Ebron up again.
No, I'm just saying. You had so many guys stink, and of all your top 12 tight ends,
so you're saying you probably didn't get beat by much,
right? I mean, you had Vance McDonald and Cameron Brate and guys like that. Who were the guys who were your top scorers? So hopefully you didn't match up against Kyle Rudolph or something.
Yeah, you probably didn't.
Yeah,
because he's been terrible.